Computer. Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to the first of what I like to call the lost tapes this year. For those of you who remember, we did Princeton last year, and I lost the recording along with a few others. So the first 10 HW Alumni acts this year will actually be ones we covered last year. So you'll get double duty. Some of our panelists will be the same. Welcome back, Elizabeth. Some of our panelists will be different. Thank you for taking this on, Amelia. And of course, for Princeton, we have an HW staple, our director of advancement, Princeton '04. And Eli, correct me, I think you were the president of the class of Princeton '04, correct?
As an undergrad, yeah.
Yeah, Eli Goldsmith. So, with that being said, we'll let this Quaker get out of the way of these and let them have at it. Of course, at the end, there'll be plenty of time for questions. And Amelia and Elizabeth have been gracious enough to lend us their contacts. So, if you have any questions even beyond our Q&A time today, you'll be able to reach them. With that being said, Eli, Amelia, Elizabeth, you guys take it away.
Great. Well, I'm happy to begin. And Quasi, when I was undergrad, my roommates were football. I didn't play football, but my roommates were football players, and Penn beat us every year, and it was very frustrating. So you have bragging rights, definitely over the early 2000s football era. But welcome everybody for wanting to learn a bit about Princeton. I graduated more than 20 years ago, so my perspective is now pretty old. But so the insights into this Zoom will really come from Amelia and Elizabeth. But just as a quick introduction before kind of they really take it away, I'm in my 18th year at Harvard-Westlake. I'm the head of advancement. Was here for 4 or 5 years in the mid 2000s. Left to go to grad school, and then I came back in 2012. I've been back ever since, and now I'm in charge of the advancement team here. But I went to public high school. I didn't go to Harvard-Westlake. But Princeton for me was absolutely transformational. I think it's probably you all being Harvard-Westlake alums. I didn't get the privilege of having these types of opportunities in high school. And so I think when I got there, it was mind blowing. I'll also add that when I got there, I did not have the benefit of being prepared the way Harvard-Westlake students are prepared, and maybe Elizabeth and Amelia can speak to that. But I remember getting to school and being assigned an essay and thought, because I was a pretty good writer in high school, I knew how to get A's in high school, and I wrote an essay that I thought was an A essay, and it was not an A essay. And so I had to really adjust my expectations in a way that I don't think Harvard-Westlake students do most places. But I had an incredible experience. I was involved in student government. I made amazing friendships. All the groomsmen in my wedding were Princetonians pretty much. I'm still involved, no surprise, with class giving and annual giving at Princeton. I go to as many reunions as I can, volunteer where I can. I even wear orange ties from time to time. We have a new trustee at Harvard-Westlake who's a Princeton alum, and so we were connecting today on that during her trustee orientation. So just, couldn't be a bigger fan of the school, and very happy to be here to host this Zoom, and excited by the interest in Princeton. So let's get to the more interesting part of this, which will be Amelia and Elizabeth's insights. So I think we have a few set questions. I guess first, maybe we'll start with you, Elizabeth. First, let's start with this. Why did you choose Princeton?
Yeah, so when I was a senior at Harvard-Westlake, I'm sure they still have this program, but it was the Senior Independent Study Program. And I signed up for that, and I spent my fall semester doing some independent research in history and policy, environmental history and policy. And I really enjoyed that experience. And I was between a couple of schools to apply to early, and I really took a look at Princeton, and they just fund undergraduate research so much. This is something that you'll hear a lot of Princeton students say, but because they have such a strong undergraduate program, they're really willing to fund undergraduates with any research they want to take on, any summer opportunities they want to take on, really independent work and research. And they really value undergraduates getting the opportunity to research things that they're passionate about. So, for example, Princeton has a senior thesis for every liberal arts degree that you may get here. So that's the Bachelor of Arts degree. And so you do your independent research and they fund you, and they really prioritize seniors being able to do that important the work that's important to them. So that was really appealing to me, that Princeton just has so many resources for undergraduates.
Yeah, I would add before we turn to you, Amelia, some people, I mean, this for people who are just becoming familiar with these schools, Princeton does not have a law school, a medical school, or a business school. A lot of the peers, with which Princeton is often compared, or the world that it's in, most of those places have big graduate programs, which is great in certain ways. But what's unique about Princeton is there's such a focus. The famous professors that you've all heard of, the resources, right, to Elizabeth's point about research, is so focused on the undergraduate experience. And it's tilted so much toward the undergraduate experience. Princeton does have graduate schools, but it's just much smaller in scope than a lot of its peers. Amelia, what about you?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to talk about the size. It's
Yeah.
like the perfect size. It is quite small. There is almost no grad. I think the ratio is like 5,600 undergrad to about 2,000, 2,200 grad, which if you look up the numbers for any other school, that is pretty unique. And so the access to opportunities is immense, and that really drew me in.
Great. Maybe if you could talk about your experience. First, what's your major and why did you pick your major if you have one yet?
I graduated last year. I was class of 25. I graduated as an anthropology major in the law, politics, and economics track, and a finance minor. And I picked it because I was passionate about the research I could do in anthropology more than I was so in any other department, and knew that like getting a minor in finance would be also useful.
Great.
And I am a prospective public policy major. You don't choose your major until the end of your sophomore year at Princeton, which is really nice. You get the opportunity to explore a bunch of different fields. But I am really passionate about public policy, and I would like to have the environmental studies minor.
Great. I guess this is part of the first question. Was Princeton the right choice for you? And if so, why? I guess beyond the things you've already talked about.
Yeah, I for sure. I've only been here for a year and a month, but it's definitely such an amazing community. Like Amelia and Eli were saying, it's such a tight-knit group of people. I mean, it's a pretty big campus, of course, compared to 300 per grade in Harvard-Westlake, but because it's a medium-sized campus, there's so many ways to find that tight-knit community and clubs and everything, and undergrads are just very very close. So I think I've found community here. It's absolutely lovely. And as we were saying before, there's Princeton wants to give their undergrads so many resources to be able to do and explore what they want. Definitely the
Yeah.
right choice.
I think it's also great, like as someone who's now left, the community gets a lot smaller the older you get. Like you start out your freshman year and every single door is open and the doors stay open, but you find your groups, you find your clubs, your eating clubs, your social groups, and that all happens as you progress along your Princeton journey. And so the campus gets a lot smaller as you're finding like who your friends are and what you want to study and who you want to spend time with, which I think is really, really nice.
Next question is around the diversity of whether it's your major, your classes, the campus overall. Do you feel like it's a diverse place? And if so, how is that diversity kind of cultivated?
Anthropology as a major is very diverse. I think my class year was the first time it was actually like half and half men and women in the department, which was like unique. It keeps growing as a department. I think coming from LA, coming from Harvard-Westlake, it is less diverse than that. Which I think puts a lot of people from LA or like New York or other cities. It's interesting because you'll hear about people coming from other areas of the country, and this is more diverse than they've ever experienced. But with the perspective that we have, like coming from LA, coming from Harvard-Westlake, I would say that was noticeable.
I completely agree. I will say though, like meeting people from other parts of the I know it's a cliche, but yeah, my roommates are from all different places, and it's been great to be able to get to know different people. But I completely agree. Coming from LA, it's for sure less diverse. Although I will say, I think Princeton, because of generous endowment, generous financial aid, like Harvard-Westlake, but of course on a greater scale, I think a little more socioeconomically diverse, if that's a consideration for your family as well.
That's a great add-on. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it's funny. I went to a public high school that was where I was a minority in my high school, for example. And so sort of numbers wise, you would think my high school is more diverse, but my friend group was not very diverse. And I got to college, and actually my friend group was very diverse. And so I felt like however they cultivated either student activities or dorms or whatever, I just found myself much more around different types of people. And then there's 10% of students are international, I think. I don't know if that percentage has changed. Maybe it's higher now.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's higher. I mean, I know there's sort of world and national politics that are impacting those numbers too, and we'll see how things change. But it's really a place where you can meet people not just from around the country, but around the world. And sometimes meeting people from the South can feel different culturally. Meeting people from, parts of the Northeast can feel very different than California too. So, okay. How about summers? There's a question here about how you at least intend to use your summers, Elizabeth or Amelia, ways that you kind of use summers. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to work in finance. And so I started recruiting for that basically my freshman year, but then really heavily my sophomore year. And so my sophomore summer, I already had a job for my junior summer. And so my sophomore summer, I could, sort of pick what I wanted to do and see like what I wanted to explore. And then my junior summer, I was working at a bank.
Great.
Cool.
And what about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I just finished up my first summer. I did an internship through the Pace Center for Civic Engagement, which is our community service center. They have a ton of opportunities. So it was actually back in Los Angeles, so I got to go back home and do some work there. It was a self-directed project about environmental justice, and education, which was really cool. But Princeton has a ton of opportunities for you to plug into connections they already have, whether that's through alums or internships, or to make your own projects. They have a lot of opportunities for guidance where you can make your own projects and do your own service work. So it really depends. There's something for everyone, and if you seek out the wealth of information that's there, you can get support.
And what about, here's another question about, I know there could be people on the Zoom who are preparing to write college essays either in the next few months or the next few years. Do you remember what you wrote your college essays about, or at least one of them about? Was there something that you felt like captured you in a way that you were able to convey with that essay?
Oh, I can go first.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you want to start?
You're
Yeah,
closer to it.
yeah. I remember freaking out about it, but in junior year, I don't know if they still do this at Harvard-Westlake, but they have a unit at the end of the year that's personal writing, like expository, I think, which is really helpful for the college essay. And so for that, I wrote a short essay about an experience I had in my history class in 10th grade. And that ended up being the thing that I ended up adapting that into my college essay. And so I guess what I learned from that is people freak out about having the big story, but honestly, it can be something small or cool, like just a tiny experience you had in a random history class, and that's okay. If you can find a way to reflect on that, that's totally okay.
Yeah. And if it's authentic to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. When I was at Harvard-Westlake, I did HW TV, and this was like very far back in the day when there were, not as many cameras and not as many mics. Maybe 9 years ago now. So a long time ago. But I loved announcing and sports broadcasting. And so my Common App was about that, about my experience and my journey with that. And then that's actually a passion I continued at Princeton. I worked for the Ivy League on ESPN, and I did broadcasting for them there as well. So it's something that really, true to my story, carried through my whole life.
Nice. And here's the last one of the prepared questions. I guess in your case, Amelia, do you feel like Princeton prepared you well for your career and for life, even though you're kind of early in your post-Princeton life?
Very, very early in my post-Princeton life, about as early as you could be, but I would 100% say yes. The career center, the clubs you'll join, the older people you'll meet who will be your mentors and advisors, and just other older people who've taken interest in you and want to help you out. The Princeton community is very small, but it's very, 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 very supportive. And that applies not just to people on campus who might know you, but also to people you cold email, or people you call, or people you just say, I'm a fellow Tiger reaching out. Even at my job so far, I've found that to be the case. There's not, it is a small number. There aren't that many Princeton people in the world because of how small the college is, but the investment that every single person, even if you don't know them, has in your success is unparalleled, I would say.
Yeah, I'm just to tag onto this thing about the the cohesion of the alumni network and how bonded people are. I remember when early on in my career, I was trying to find a job at a talent agency in LA, actually. And I had been a musician and I wanted to work in music. And so I was trying to get a job working for a music agent. I sent my resume to this agency, through the normal channels, didn't hear anything, and here I thought, oh my gosh, I went to this great college and they're going to reach out to me immediately. Crickets, right? But then through the alumni network, I found there was an agent working there. And so I emailed him, and then I had a classmate who had just gotten a job as an assistant on a desk. And so I emailed both of them. They got back to me immediately, because that's what happens when you are a Princeton alum and you reach out to other Princeton alums. And they both went to HR and recommended me. And I got a call from HR the next day, and I had a job the next week. So that's the power of, so many jobs, no matter what industry, are just a connection. Somebody, someone vouches for you. There's a stack of 100 resumes and someone takes a second to look at yours a little longer. So that can be really valuable, and it's definitely true. Liz? Sorry.
HW Works is loving everything it's hearing right now.
That's right. HW Works is the example of this exact thing, because Harvard-Westlake is similar, and we have connections everywhere. And Quasi, Mr. France can help you do that. Elizabeth.
Yes. Well, I can speak to the career discernment part of this.
Yeah.
I'm still in college. But yeah, I mean, as is the case with a lot of my peers, I think right now at this stage, we don't really know what we want to do, but there's a lovely Center for Career Development, and there's a lot of opportunities to speak to upperclassmen and alumni about, what I might want to do. The internships are also really helpful for this, reaching out and maybe working with alumni over the summer, figuring out, is this something that I would want to do? So there are a lot of opportunities to figure that out at Princeton, I think.
Great. Is there, sorry, Quasi, Mr. France?
I was going to say, so that's the end of the formal, hey, cover these questions part. You guys as alum, as Tigers, as Bond, you guys have about 7 to 10 minutes to talk about anything you think that we've missed, and then we'll open it up to questions, because there are a ton of parents and students on here, and I know they have questions. So,
sure. I guess the one last question I would say is there a misconception about Princeton, either Amelia or Elizabeth, that you feel like when you got there, you're actually, or when people assume certain things about it, that based on your experience, you actually feel like isn't true? Is there anything that jumps to mind, Elizabeth?
Yes, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot stuffier than it is, but it's not. It's just it's not at all. People are very down to earth here. There's such a diversity of people. You'll find your people if if you come here. I think it's a lovely community and yeah, it's not stuffy at all if you're thinking that.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Amelia?
agreed. I think also it can be intimidating, or you think everyone's sort of wrapped up in their own thing because everyone at Princeton is pretty exceptional in their own way, but that doesn't mean that you won't have people supporting you every step of the way. No one is ever too busy. No one like would not take the time to talk with you or help you or support you or chat there like as your friends and stuff or going forward. Like I think the saying is 4 for 40. Like you're at the school for 4, but you're part of the community for 40 plus.
Plus. Oh yeah, so to Mr. Francis' comment, we've got a few minutes if anyone has specific questions on the Zoom.
Try to go through. For hand, you can use hands or we got a question from our packed audience. Go ahead.
Languages. What are the different languages that Princeton offers for students who are more language based, who that's their passion?
Almost anything. We have really robust language departments. Are there any in particular that you're thinking of? I can let you know if we have it.
Mandarin.
Yeah, for sure. We have very robust Chinese department and they teach Mandarin. Yeah.
Is that something you can major in, or would it have to be more general, like languages, like multi-language?
You can major in a language, but some of the languages get combined. So like for instance, you wouldn't just major in Spanish, you'd major in Spanish and Portuguese. Other languages don't get combined. Like one of my best friends majored in German. There were only 4 people graduating in our year who majored in German, and she was one of them, and she loved it. So that is possible.
On the Zoom? No. We're gonna get out of here early Friday afternoon. Not that I should sound excited about that, but I might. Oh, go ahead. Identify yourself, sir.
Hello. My name is Milo. I'm a junior. You guys can't see me right now, but I'm in the room. Yeah. My question was just for the alum and the people currently attending. What was something that you were doing while at Harvard-Westlake, that helped either identify Princeton as a main target, or something you were doing to, maybe bolster your academic resume, your extracurricular resume to get ready for Princeton?
It's an interesting question. I feel like there's no one thing, but everyone obviously always says that. I think what's unique about Princeton is the thesis requirement and the independent research requirements. So your junior year, you'll do your independent research, and then your senior year, it will end with your thesis. And so I think something that helped me prepare myself for Princeton, I don't know quite how you phrased it, was pursuing independent research while in high school and, showing interest in that, showing propensity for that, and passion. I think that is probably also the biggest word, is being passionate about what you're doing and showing why it impacts how you view the world and what you contribute to the world. I think is also important. I'm not sure if that answered the question, but maybe Elizabeth can tie it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I completely agree because Princeton values independent research. They love to see when, if it's true to you and if it's something you're interested in, then they might like to see that. But I would also say just explore academically, be curious. If you're curious about something, pursue it. If you're in the service world, if you're passionate about some issue, pursue it. Extracurricularly, if you're passionate about something, pursue it. Just really, if you're really drawn to something in high school, pursue it, because on your application, when you're telling your story, admissions officers can see that you're passionate about something and that you're pursuing it, because they want college students who are authentically pursuing something that's interesting to them.
I'm gonna piggyback on Milo's question, actually, for the two of you, and see if you can dig in the memory bank and be a little more specific. Do you all remember what you did in the summers after your sophomore year at Harvard-Westlake and after
Hmm.
your junior year at Harvard-Westlake?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually wait, no. I remember my junior year summer or part of it. I don't know if this exists anymore because this would have been a while ago, but the Latin American Iberian Studies Fellowship through like Spanish.
Yeah.
Is it called department in high school? It's sorry, it's been a long time. I went to Peru and Bolivia to investigate the imposition of monotheism on like indigenous cultures there. And so it was basically like a fellowship in religious anthropology before I knew what anthropology even was. And then discovered I loved anthropology. So I don't remember my sophomore summer. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I remember, I forget which summer this was, but there was this one opportunity. It was this pre-college program. It's to take some class, and it was about food justice, which is what I want to do. And I remember I was like, of course, as most pre-college programs are, an arm and a leg, and I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Am I going to do this, or am I going to fly out and whatever? And it didn't end up happening, and it was totally okay because I found something that was a lot more valuable through Harvard-Westlake has a partnership with Oxbridge. If you can look into that if you're interested. But moral of the story, I guess, things can change and that's okay. And there are many paths to get to the place that you want to be, and that's totally fine.
Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else from the crowd, if there's nothing else from the Zoom, Mr. Goldsmith, Elizabeth, was there a question? I'm sorry. Did I miss it? If you have a question, just go ahead and yell at this point. Or maybe I didn't miss it. Okay, then I will go with my closing then. With that case, Eli, Amelia, Elizabeth, thank you for your time this Friday afternoon. Everyone who joined the Zoom, remember this call will be recorded on the and put in the resources section of the platform. It'll also be on the HW Works YouTube channel. With that being said, I hope to see. Oh, there is a question. Look at that. Somebody got it in. Looking back, if you could give your freshman self one piece of advice for making the most of Princeton, what would it be? That's a good question. I'm glad they got that in.
I'm not that far removed. It was just a couple months ago. I guess take advantage of every single opportunity, not just academic, but social, whatever, extracurricular. Just jump into everything. I feel like I did that, but if I could do that more, I would. There are just so many cool things that to try out. Just say yes to everything. Worry about dropping stuff later.
I totally agree. And I think freshman year feels overwhelming, like regardless of where you go to school. And that is tough, but I think it's important to push through that and like say yes to things where, you maybe aren't feeling up to it that day, or you think of like a lot of homework to do. I think push through that, say yes, because you might like find your community there, or you might find someone who can help you with it down the line, or like you'll end up in a class with them later on and you wouldn't know them if you hadn't said yes.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I think I think it's sort of never stop meeting new people, making new friends. Sometimes freshman year you end up either you're on a sports team or you join a social group or whatever it is, or you're in and those become your people. And those become your people often for 4 years, which is amazing. But I remember I found myself like senior week of senior year, and I was in student government, so I knew a lot of people. But I remember like hanging out with some people I had never, it's probably happened at Harvard-Westlake too for people. You hang out with people right at the end because some of the sort of social things break down and you just start making new friends. You go, wow, why wasn't I closer with those guys? Like those were awesome people and I share so much in common with them, so I have very few regrets of my college experience because it was so great, but it would have been probably making a few more friendships outside of my specific lane that I ended up, choosing through major, or if people join an eating club or all those types of things. So true of your Harvard-Westlake experience as well, I would add.
Very well said. Any other questions? That was a thank you. Thank you for attending, Jeanette. Okay, with that being said, it's Friday afternoon. Get out of here, everybody. All right, enjoy the weekend. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Amelia, for lending your time, insight, expertise into that little school in New Jersey everybody wants to go to. With that being said, take care, everybody. We'll see you
Go
next
Tigers.
Thank you.
week. Go Tigers. We'll see you next week for Hopkins and I believe Columbia next week.
Right.
And
Bye,
the
Quasi.
Lost Tapes continue. Take care. Thanks again.